Hey, so I don't really feel like it's uncommon to hear from a lot of wrestling fans and wrestling creators that they either don't watch AEW as much as they used to, or they don't watch AEW anymore. Like, that's not a very uncommon sentiment these days. I'm one of them. I would fall under the category of I don't watch AEW as much as I used to anymore. For those of you who may have been following me since 2019, when AEW first started, I watched every single show AEW produced from 2019 to like 2023. Did not miss a show. Didn't miss one. I was a hardcore. I was in it. I was locked in. This is a fresh new promotion. WWE at that time truly sucked. Was not a good. Did not tell good stories. The wrestling wasn't up to par. I still think AEW is the best promotion in terms of in-ring competition. But AEW was just better at everything at that point. At least in my opinion, I think the common consensus in the IWC was AEW was better at everything at that point. But in the last 2 years, I think we've seen quite a shift in the, not so much the narrative, because I think the narrative really is just what everyone's thinking. But we've seen a lot of perception shift in what AEW truly is to a lot of wrestling fans. And if I'm being honest, AEW is clearly the number 2 promotion right now. And it seems like they've been struggling in the ratings for quite some time. And it does suck to see. It does suck to say that I don't watch this promotion as much as I used to. But I wanted to come on here because I saw this video from this wrestling creator who I believe is really a WWE 2K gaming creator. His name is AssembleWrestling. I'm pretty sure he has a channel called Assemble. And he just created this wrestling-based channel. And I wanted to see what his opinion was. His title was called Why I Almost Stopped Watching AEW Forever. Now, that's a pretty bold statement to say AEW for like why you almost stopped forever. So I'm curious about why he almost stopped forever. I don't think I've gotten to a point where I said, oh, I'm never watching this promotion ever again. I'm just at a point where it's like I'm waiting for them to do something exciting so I could start watching again. Because I definitely hear a lot of you guys who say, why don't you watch AEW anymore? You're turning away a bunch of your fans by not watching a promotion. I am not the type of person to sit here and make content about a promotion I don't like. Like, if I am not into a promotion, what I won't do is come on here and rant and rave and yell and scream every single. Does it make for good viewership? Yes. But I'm not the type of person to do that. I'll make a rant about something that I like and I want to see improve, but I'm not about to rant all day about something that I'm not enjoying. At that point, I'm just not going to watch it until it gets better. And that's the point I'm at with AEW right now. Those rants and raves you saw from me, that was last year. Last year, I was ranting and raving about AEW and CM Punk and all that stuff. At this point in time, it's like, yeah, until y'all start doing something for me, I'm not really watching a promotion. I'm watching it this Sunday for AEW Double or Nothing. I am watching that much. But I'm not watching it week to week. Don't watch Dynamite weekly. Don't watch Collision weekly. Don't watch Rampage. Does anyone watch Rampage? But the point being, I don't watch it. I'm not at the point where I'm going to say I'm done watching it forever, though. This guy almost stopped watching it forever. We're going to check out his video. I'm going to give my thoughts on it. So that being said, Assemble, why did you almost stop watching AEW? Tell the people. Tell me.
Hey everybody, welcome to Assemble. I'm Matt. Great to have you here. Today, we're talking about AEW. I have watched AEW since the beginning, since it first came out.
It's crazy to think AEW is only 5 years old, right? 5 years old. It's such a young promotion. It really is a young promotion, even though it feels like it's been around for a little bit longer than that now. It's only been 5 years.
And
they've accomplished a lot in 5 years, by the way.
I almost fell off from watching the product overall, kind of recently. Now, I want to talk about AEW.
Okay, so I do want to say where my decline started, because I think that's important. Because like he said, he started watching the beginning. I started watching from the beginning. I think my decline in the promotion truly started in early 2023. Because if you go to my channel, the very first, truly, I don't even want to say negative, but my truly, highly critical video of AEW was called I'm Skipping AEW Revolution, which was AEW 2023. So that to me historically was my first video, my first AEW show where I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking about skipping this show. I'm not interested. And ever since that date, it's been a slow decline downwards for AEW. It's just been a slow decline down in interest, whereas WWE's been a slow incline in interest. Because I'll be honest, I'll be straight up with you. Yes, my channel has shifted in its focus of wrestling promotions over the years. When I first started doing wrestling content in 2015, it was WWE. From 2015, I want to say 2018, the primary focus was New Japan. In 2019, the primary focus became AEW and New Japan. Then after like 2020, it was really just AEW up until 2000 and like August 2022 when the Bloodline really started picking up with Sami Zayn. That's when I started like, all right, let me start watching WWE again. But my focus was still AEW, but let me start watching WWE little by little. Like catch a SmackDown here, catch a SmackDown there. And then 2023, that's when I'm like, all right, let me actually start watching WWE just a little bit more. Maybe a Raw here, maybe a SmackDown there. But AEW is like not watching that as much. So in 2023, there was a point where I really wasn't watching much wrestling at all. I wasn't watching AEW Dynamite weekly really after, I would say, the summer. I wasn't watching Raw weekly. I wasn't watching SmackDown weekly. So I wasn't watching wrestling on a weekly basis for like really the last half of 2023. I really, if I'm being honest, I really wasn't. And then I want to say this year was when my primary focus became WWE again. It was really this year. Really and truly, it was this year. And now AEW is kind of just secondary. I catch it when I catch it. But enough about me. Let's listen to this guy a little bit more. Just wanted to lay out the land of where my interest has been over the last few years of doing wrestling content. Because I started doing wrestling content in 2015, almost 10 years strong. Let's go.
AEW in general with all of you, because I am a fan of it. I'm a fan of just having pro wrestling available to watch, to be able to have
AEW being a thing is not horrible at all. You will never hear me sit here and say, oh, I want the company to die. I want them to go under. Fuck it. I'm never going to say that. I will never say that. If my interest drops to the point where I never want to watch AEW again, I will never say I want them to die. I think that's ridiculous because AEW is so integral to the landscape of professional wrestling. There is a second place for wrestlers to go when they're not happy with how they're being treated in WWE. A lot of these wrestlers were from WWE that are now employed, making great money, getting booked way better, having a better spot on television. It is a great thing to have AEW right now. Is it in a great spot? Maybe not the best spot it could be in. Maybe it was in a better spot 3 years ago. But to say you want AEW to die, I think is so counterproductive to everything that wrestling has going for it right now. So I will never say that. I will never say that.
Have alternative options. Growing up, my whole life watching WWF, WWE, then being able to watch TNA and Impact.
Hell yeah, man. Let me tell you, man, because growing up, I only thought there was one option, WWE. When you're a kid, you don't know about the indies. You don't know about all this other stuff. You don't know about the WC unless you're introduced to it. You don't know about these other promotions. You only know about WWE. I mean, my story with TNA is that it was one random day over the summer, like 2009, I think. Summer 2009. One random day over the summer, I was at my dad's house. And I was just I was browsing through my television. And at the time, Xfinity was Comcast. Comcast had On Demand. How many young kids out there remember Comcast On Demand, right? Comcast had a button called On Demand. You would go on there, and that was basically it was basically the equivalent to what streaming is now, like your Netflix, your Hulus, your HBO Maxes. That was Comcast On Demand. And On Demand had, some episodes of Raw you can catch, some episodes of SmackDown you could catch, and under one of the categories, I saw TNA wrestling, and I'm like, oh, maybe WWE started up a new show, because at this point, I heard like, oh, they're starting up. I didn't know about shit about rumors and Dave Meltzer and all that, but I did have like one website I would go to called NoDQ.com, and I would go to that website to look up results from pay-per-views because my parents couldn't afford them. So on the NoDQ website, there's like rumors about a new wrestling show being started by WWE. This was NXT the following year in 2010. But I'm like, oh, maybe this is the new wrestling show WWE starting, TNA Wrestling. So I turned that on, and I'm like, is that Kurt Angle? Is that Booker T? Where are these guys? Is that Jeff Hardy? Like, I was like, what? Where are these guys? Maybe in my childhood, because in 2009 I was like maybe 12. In my head, I'm still thinking this is WWE to some extent because all these WWE guys are there. But then there's all these other guys I've never seen before: Motor City Machine Guns, Beer Money, what's the guy's name? Samoa Joe, AJ Styles. I've never seen these guys before, so I'm like, well, I don't think this is WWE. So what the hell is this? But I already turned it on, so I'm like, I'm going to watch it. I got locked in. I was watching TNA, like, not every week, because at that point, I didn't exactly know how to watch TNA outside of the DVR. It's outside of On Demand. I ended up finding out how to watch it, like, I think later in the year, which was on Spike TV at, like, Thursday nights at 8 o'clock or something like that. But at that point, I'm like, oh, okay, so this is the other promotion. This is another wrestling show I could watch. And I was watching TNA consistently for like 2 years. I didn't fall off with TNA until like 2011 when CM Punk started doing the Best in the World gimmick. And that wasn't even a fall off. It was just kind of I was just so hyper fixated on CM Punk that I kind of forgot TNA was doing something. Because I didn't truly fall off of TNA until 2012. But I think my fall off started in 2011. But anyway, I went off on a tangent there. Just want to highlight the story of how I got into TNA.
Of its heyday, and then eventually being...
TNA was really the only other wrestling show I watched up until 2017? No, 2017 when I discovered New Japan. Yeah, it was only WWE and TNA. That was it.
Able to have the experience of AEW launching and seeing it from start until now. We've had the product now for 5 years, and I thought it'd be cool to be able to talk a little bit about why I almost fell off watching it. And I say almost because I haven't. I still watch the pay-per-views. I almost said PLEs.
I think I will. I don't know if I will ever get used to calling it PLEs. People still say PLEs, and I will still, in my head, compute that as pay-per-views. I've been saying pay-per-views for my whole life. I think the PLE thing is just a huge adjustment for me.
Still watch the pay-per-views. I still watch Dynamite, but we've got Rampage. We've got...
And you can't call it a PLE for AEW because you still got to pay $50 for that shit. So that's damn sure not a PLE. Cannot wait until they move to... We've been saying about the moving to Max for 3 years now, and it still hasn't happened. Just saying. The day they move to Max and I don't got to pay $50 for pay-per-views anymore is the day where I will get on my knees and thank Tony Khan. Because fuck has been paying $50 every other month for AEW been... Well, if I'm being honest, I haven't really watched AEW pay-per-views in a month. I haven't bought an AEW pay-per-view in months, so... Hasn't really been hurting my pockets lately, but last year and the year prior and the year after before that and the year before that, it was hurting my pockets. So, especially in 2023 when they were doing pay-per-views once a month after like All In. Oh yeah, I'm ready for them to go to Max.
Collision, and there are, I think, some big issues with the product overall. And if you're a die-hard AEW fan, amazing. If you're a die-hard WWE fan, amazing. This isn't about we're gonna talk trash and crap about why AEW is a crap product.
Hell yeah, fuck AEW. No, I'm just kidding.
But there are issues with it that I want to be able to discuss. There are issues with WWE as well. But this video...
There can't possibly be trouble in paradise in WWE. Can't possibly.
Let's look back a little bit. When AEW was first announced and it was coming out and Tony Khan was leading the charge and still is. Tony, by the way, seemed a lot more put together, didn't he? His hair was shorter. He had the glasses. He just looked like a wrestling nerd. And it was kind of fun. It was like, cool, this nerdy.
Yeah, this geek is running the show. This Mark is running the show. That's what we all thought back then, and it was cool. And it still is cool to an extent. It's just now he's out here just doing shit, and it's like, all right, bro. But it was cool though.
Billionaire is starting a wrestling company. You had the likes of Jericho coming out. You had the Bucks, the Elite.
I still remember that day when they had that press conference outside, and Chris Jericho showed up at the press conference, and then Kenny Omega showed up at the very end of the conference. This truly felt like a revolution was being started. 2019 AEW truly felt like a revolution. I will never, until the day I die, forget AEW Double or Nothing 2019 weekend. Never. Of all the wrestling shows I've been to, of all the states and cities I've traveled to for wrestling shows, my favorite wrestling weekend to this very day is still AEW Double or Nothing 2019 weekend. There were wrestling fans everywhere in Las Vegas. Well, number one, I've never been to Las Vegas either, but there were wrestling fans everywhere. Wrestlers everywhere. Personalities, influencers everywhere. Like, anybody who was anybody in the wrestling community was there that weekend. And it was like, yeah, you see that every year for WrestleMania, but seeing it for something completely different, this new promotion that everybody's excited for, there was just an energy that weekend that has not been captured since. It has not been captured since. So when people ask me, oh, what's your favorite like wrestling weekend? It's always going to be the first Double or Nothing AEW had. But yeah, another tangent. I'm sorry. When I hear things that I could get into, I'm going to get into them. You'll learn more about me through this. So
Omega.
Let's get into this.
You had big name Pac showed up. You got Hangman breaking out as a new star in AEW and as a new talent. For me, a lot of the talent, not to mention Cody Rhodes, Dustin Rhodes, and so on. But for me, experiencing AEW when it first launched, I was super excited for it. The reason why was because, one, it was an alternative to WWE.
Yep.
In 2018 and really even before that, like I feel 2016, 17, 18, 19, and 20, and 20. I mean, we get into COVID era, but like there were years.
WWE was trash. You can say it.
Of WWE that I felt were almost borderline unwatchable as a fan.
Especially 2019, bro. After WrestleMania 35, 2019, because like the beginning of 2019, when it was Becky and Ronda feuding, and then Charlotte got thrown in there last minute, but then Kofi Mania, like beginning of 2019 was fine. It was after WrestleMania where they fell off fucking hard.
And I have watched WWE,
and it was trash beyond that point, because that's when you get into the Fiend versus Seth Rollins and all that, and then COVID. Don't take me back to that period.
Forever. Even when it has been absolute trash, in my opinion, I have still tuned in to watch. And those years, right around the time of AEW coming out, was really hard to watch WWE. Storylines were crap. Endless rematches. Vince just doing random matches. Stuff that didn't make sense.
And like I said earlier, and like you will hear this point across many content creators and many fans, WWE being shit was truly AEW's benefit. Because if WWE were this strong, if WWE now was WWE in 2019, I don't think AEW would have had as strong of a start. Now, I'm not saying they would have failed in the beginning, because that's not true. They would have still had success. But I don't think they would have had as strong of a start as far as like them beating NXT in the ratings every week for like 50 weeks, or them having basically all the fans' attention. That would not have been the case if WWE now was WWE then. But WWE then was just bad. So AEW came in and just stole the fire away. And, you know, they were signing all these talent. Everybody who was upset with WWE was like, let me check out AEW. Everybody in WWE who was working for them that was upset, we were like, oh, they're AEW bound. And we still do that from now, but not as much. So, like I said, the energy then was just so different because it was the hot new thing. It's not the hot new thing anymore. It's still in its early stages, but it's not the hot new thing anymore. The honeymoon period is over for them. Put it that way.
Character development wasn't there. There were so many issues, and it was borderline unwatchable to see WWE. So when AEW came out, I was so pumped. I thought, this is an alternative for me. This is going to expose me to different wrestlers. It's going to expose me to different...
And I can't imagine, I can't imagine. Let me stop. I can imagine being a WWE fan at the time and looking towards this new promotion and not being prior exposed to indies and New Japan, because at the end of the day, if you were a wrestling fan like me, who by that point had been watching New Japan, had seen Lucha Underground, had been watching the indies, just about 95% of the AEW roster in 2019 was either former WWE guys, former New Japan guys, or big independent names. Like, that was the core AEW roster in 2019. That was the core roster then. And for fans like me at that point, it was exciting. For a fan who was just watching WWE, it had to have been also exciting, but then also kind of like, what's the word I'm looking for? Not worrying, because I don't think they'd be worried. Also, I think kind of overwhelming, because there's so much new stuff. There's so much new to get into that you're not used to. So I imagine, okay, for anybody who's watching this right now, if you watched AEW in the very beginning and you weren't exposed to Lucha Underground and New Japan, comment down below how that experience was for you getting into AEW. I'm curious, because I can't personally get into that, because I knew just about everybody in AEW when they got signed. There was only a handful of people in AEW who I did not know when the promotion first started.
Styles of storytelling within wrestling, quick, fast-paced action, being able to just
I hear now it's called fast food wrestling, which I don't know if that sentiment's entirely wrong, but I think it's a funny thing to say.
Experience what a new crop of talent and what a new company could do with wrestling that really seemed to have the budget.
I'm looking at this poster right now. Is Britt Baker injured? Because, like, I don't think she's ever on TV. I mean, I don't watch AEW Dynamite weekly, but I don't recall seeing Britt Baker advertised for anything on AEW's Twitter or Instagram, so she must be hurt.
Push.
And speaking of hurt, is Jamie Hayter ever coming back? Jesus Christ, she's been injured since, like, the end of 2022, I think? I don't think she wrestled all of 2023. Right? I don't think she wrestled for all of 2023. I have to... Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm curious now. I don't think she wrestled for all of 2023. I could be wrong in this. No, she did. She wrestled up until April of 2023. So she did wrestle in 2023, but like barely. But I need Jamie and Britt back. If Jamie started coming back at wrestling, I'll lock in for AEW.
The talent in there.
Jamie was cool.
To really see what it could do. So when AEW...
Jamie was another person that I was aware of before she came to AEW, because I watched her work in Stardom. Britt Baker was one of those people who I was freshly new to. I did not know who Britt Baker was before AEW.
Launched on Dynamite in October of 2019. This was huge, and I remember watching it beginning to end, because
that first episode of AEW Dynamite was so big for me that I invited my friends over, and I had like a party at my house. It was like me and like 5 people. I had AEW on my television screen, and I had NXT on my laptop underneath the television screen, and like nobody was watching NXT. It was so funny. I still remember it to this day.
It's the debut episode, and I was intrigued to see who would show up, what they would do, what it would look and feel like. That is a big thing for me when it comes to wrestling, is the overall feel. And I was like, oh, is this going to feel tiny? Is this going to feel like a small little arena and it's going to feel like TNA? Or is it going to feel different? It felt different. It looked different. You had the dueling tunnels. You had a different entrance. You had a different feel for the intro. You had way different talent. And again, for me, there's a lot of people that I wasn't familiar with, and I liked that a lot. I liked that there was more cursing, blood. It felt more vibrant. It felt alive. The arena was packed. That first debut episode of Dynamite also got over 1 million viewers for the show. It had me.
They struggling to crack 800,000 now, which is crazy. But you know what I mean, everything falls. I think some people either tend to not realize that or choose to ignore the fact everything falls off at some point. There is no such thing as consistent like upward growth and like no dip whatsoever. That does not exist in the entertainment industry. Everything goes up and goes down at some point. And Dynamite was bound to go down. We're just seeing the downward spiral happen in real time, and we're not used to it. That's all that is.
Me hooked. The first episode ended with Jericho, and you've got the Inner Circle.
Don't forget, WWE was in a downward spiral for a few years, like 2017 to 22. They were losing fans. Raw lost like over 1 million viewers, especially over COVID. They just recently started gaining those fans back. So they were going like this. Now they're going like this again. But AEW was going like this, and they were like this, and now it's going like this. So AEW's going like this. WWE's going like this. That's what we're looking at right now.
Being born. Jake Hager debuting on Dynamite at the end of the show, and the crowd was going electric for it. It was a
what is Jake Hager doing now?
big deal. You had Jon Moxley debut, attack Kenny Omega, put him through the table and all the glass going everywhere. Crazy. They made the show, and again, debut episode, yes, they're going to throw everything they can at it. Totally understand. But it started off with a bang, and subsequently, for that whole year and beyond that, I was hooked with AEW, and I was a big fan. Watching Dynamite every single week, wanting to get more familiar with the product, getting invested in the stories, enjoying stories like MJF versus Jericho, enjoying Hangman rise up the ranks, being able to see the Young Bucks put on some crazy matches. Cody Rhodes on Cody Island doing his story.
I'm not gonna lie, bro. I do want to hear why you almost stopped watching AEW. You kind of are just talking about. Let's speed it up a little bit.
But like, they had so much stuff going on. It did, however, feel, even in the early days, a little splintered. The women's division really felt like it was on its own island. Cody felt like he was doing his own thing.
That is very true. The women are still struggling to be booked to this day. And Cody Rhodes, I'll be 100% real, I was not a Cody Rhodes fan when AEW was in its like peak performance. In 2021, yeah, I was not a Cody Rhodes fan. And that was around the time when Cody Rhodes was disliked by AEW. I was one of those fans. I'll admit it. I wasn't a Cody Rhodes fan at that point. I've since become a big Cody Rhodes fan now, but at that point, wasn't crazy about it.
TNT title.
As a character, not as a person.
You had the heavyweight division, the tag division. They felt very like split in their own kind of sections of the show, and they didn't feel totally connected all the time, which was a critique I had of it. But I was in. I liked watching everything that this had to offer. I would see characters, I would see wrestlers like Wardlow start to...
I like his production.
...break out from Pinnacle and MJF, and becoming familiar with MJF as a new fan of his, and figuring out, who is this guy? Why do I like him? Every time he's on the microphone, I'm entertained. I love his promos. Even Jericho at the time, it was exciting to see a giant WWE name like Chris Jericho, and yeah, he was AEW Rampage. I've seen it. The crowd was hot. And CM Punk coming into the company, it was a big deal. It was a big name to...
Oh, dude. When CM Punk came into AEW, man, that was the time when it felt like this is the wrestling promotion to be watching right now. Like, before then, AEW was cool. It's the new thing, but it got CM Punk to come out of retirement and back to wrestling. You couldn't tell me nothing about AEW. I was... so locked into AEW in 2021, man. Couldn't tell me nothing.
To get, and we had incredible feuds.
CM Punk's my GOAT. So they got my GOAT to come out of retirement and start wrestling again, or you got me for life.
Him starting off,
and then he left.
Darby Allin was
and so did my interest. Let me stop.
Amazing. You had him versus Darby. The really impressive feud. Great storytelling.
Yeah, that is actually interesting. I say that. So does anyone else feel like their interest for AEW left when CM Punk left? Because I did see that sentiment go around quite a bit around November of last year. Is there anybody who could say that their interest left when CM Punk left? I can't entirely say my interest left when CM Punk left. I said that jokingly. Partially, that is the reason why. But largely is because the product was just not doing it for me for most of 2023. But does anyone else share that sentiment?
Telling between him and MJF. It was fun to see. And then, and I'm not saying that it's because, Punk left and you had Brawl out and then everything took a downfall. I'm sure there are points in this where people can point in time where AEW started to maybe slip or splinter off or started to go down a little bit. And you can look at a multitude of ways of like talent versus ratings, the crowd sizes, quality of shows. Like there's endless ways to kind of cherry pick what did not work or what is not working in AEW. But the early days of it, man, it felt like it was fun, and I tuned in every week, and I was excited because WWE was not doing it, Raw was crap, and then I was able to watch Raw, and then I had AEW on Wednesdays, and then I was able to watch Rampage, and I just struggled to watch it every week. And this wasn't because, CM Punk left, and there's Brawl out, and I think it's just been a combination of everything. I've watched AEW, like I said, since day one. I've followed the feuds, I've followed the pay-per-views, followed the product, seen them launch Rampage, seen them launch Collision, and as we have come into 23 and 2024, I'm just not connecting with it as much. But what about you?
Yeah, I'm not connected with AEW as much. And here's, I think, one of the major points why I'm not. WWE over the last 3 years with the Bloodline has almost kind of conditioned fans to want and expect that huge overarching storyline. Because think about WWE before COVID. Before COVID, WWE was a professional wrestling show with multiple ongoing storylines. You had your championship feud, a couple other mid-card championship feuds, some like non-title feuds, and that was WWE for you. That was all WWE was for so many years. The only other storyline like the Bloodline before that point was Stone Cold and The Rock, which felt like it was bigger than the title because it was bigger than the title. It was boss versus employee. But beyond Stone Cold and Mr. McMahon, I don't remember there being like a big overarching soap opera, can't miss a week of television episode like storyline for WWE in the 2000s or the 2010s. Q 2020 with the Bloodline, every single week there was a Roman Reigns promo with Paul Heyman. It had you locked in because you didn't know what was going to happen next. You didn't know if this was the week Jay was going to turn or Jimmy was going to return. Was this the week we're going to see the debut of a new Samoan? Is this the week we're going to see Jey Uso finally had enough? Is this the week where Sami Zayn is going to... Every week there was something that leads into the next, and not every single week was great. Not every single week had Roman Reigns and the Bloodline on. But especially, there was a point in time where whenever that graphic, and you guys know what I'm talking about, whenever that graphic showed up on TV that said Roman Reigns returns, I said, all right, I'm here. I'm watching SmackDown this week. Whenever that Roman Reigns returns next week graphic was there, I was like, I'm watching SmackDown next week. Or at least I'm watching that Roman Reigns segment next week. I've never was able to say that about WWE to that point when it came to that graphic, like Roman Reigns returns. Like, okay, yeah, John Cena returns next week. CM Punk returns next week. All right, cool. But no, Roman Reigns is coming next week. I'm there. So AEW doesn't have that. When you think about AEW and had they had a storyline like the Bloodline, the answer is yes. The answer is yes. The only storyline, let me not say the only, the biggest one. The biggest storyline AEW had similar to the Bloodline, where it was can't miss television, was the Elites versus Hangman Page. Kenny Omega versus Hangman Page. And that was like 2020 going into 2000. No, that was, what year was that? Yeah, that was 2020 to 2021. Was really AEW having that can't miss episodic storyline with Hangman Page and the Dark Order, Hangman being a part of the Elite, leaving the Elite, getting kicked out of the Elite, Kenny Omega turning heel. That was that storyline. It was that. That was from 2020 to 2021. When that ended, that's when we got into CM Punk versus MJF. And that felt like can't miss storytelling, can't miss story. But that feud only lasted like, what, 4 months? 4 months, 6 months? Once that feud ended, they really didn't have anything beyond that point going into 2022. After that point, 2022, AEW really didn't have much of anything. It was kind of just back to being a wrestling show, which AEW kind of prides itself on because AEW, at its core, produces some of the best in-ring competition out of all other promotions ever. So that's what they can rely back on. Okay, if you don't have that big story, we have our wrestling. But at that point in time, WWE was instilling in our heads, hey, you want this episodic storyline. This is great storytelling. This is great wrestling. We've been conditioned over that year of time. You get on to 2023. The AEW had MJF and Adam Cole, and then it got stale, and then it got hurt. And now it's been 5 months, going on 6 months, and they've been dragging it out the best they can, but then at some point they had to stop because they realized, well, both men are hurt, they can't do anything. They don't have a storyline. Just recently, they started the Young Bucks versus AEW, or the Young Bucks versus Tony Khan, and now Tony Khan's not on TV, so you're not really doing that storyline. It's just the Young Bucks being heels, Okada being heels, Jack Perry being a part. It really just feels like a hostile takeover. There's not really a can't miss factor in AEW right now. AEW doesn't have a storyline where it's like, I have to tune in every single week to see what happens. They don't have that. They haven't had that for over a year, really. They have not had that for over a year. And that's really their biggest issue. They don't have that. The wrestling is good. I mean, no one's going to dispute the wrestling being great most times, especially on pay-per-views. But I don't think that's enough now. I don't think the AEW can just skate by with the fact that they were a great wrestling promotion. I think those days are over. WWE has set a standard, and AEW cannot come up to that standard right now. They have not found that story, and they're trying, but they haven't found the new storyline to raise up to where WWE is right now. And until they do, I don't honestly think they're going to meet WWE at that level for a while. Now, when MJF comes back and they can finally lock in again with that, now I don't even know if that storyline is going to be as hot. I don't think it will, honestly. I don't think the MJF Adam Cole storyline will be as hot when MJF comes back. If anything, they might want to blow it off the month afterwards and then do something else. Maybe MJF versus the Elite. Maybe MJF versus the Elite with MJF as a babyface. That might be the storyline that will lock everybody back in AEW. But I don't know what it is. They need to find it.
For me,
I'm probably getting the video right here. I think that was my closing statement. But we'll finish out what he has to say.
It's been a struggle for the last year and a half. And I started to wonder what it is. Why is it? Why do I feel like I am not enjoying it as much? Is it just because I'm enjoying WWE's product more in the last 12 to 18 months?
Well, that is definitely a big part of it.
Maybe, but that doesn't stop me from watching other wrestling.
Of course not.
Still want to enjoy everything. So
I would watch AEW weekly if it was enticing enough, but it's not.
It's not really it, because I like having alternative options and seeing different feuds, different matchups. But I started to really try to dissect, for me, what is it? And it really starts to feel like they're not doing enough storytelling for me. I
think that is just what I said.
Been the big reason why I've almost fallen off of AEW. Because I feel like every single week on Dynamite, every single month with pay-per-views, the pay-per-views can put on some banger matches now that you have because you have the likes of Will Ospreay, and you have a talented roster. But I feel like there is a lack of storytelling overall. There are some stories, don't get me wrong, and some of them are fun. In fact, the storyline with the EVPs, the Young Bucks, like, I'm not a big Bucks fan, and I like it. I kind of do like it. I think it's interesting to see where they're going to go with it, with Okada, and see how they're going to take this up a notch and take it to the next.
Yeah, it's like the storyline with Okada and Elite. I like that because I've never seen Okada as a heel before. It's cool to see it. It's just not enough because the storyline they're in is just not compelling enough for me.
Level, and can they land it with this fun storyline that they're doing? But for me, it's felt like it's just lacked that sizzle, that special feeling. And it's sad to see that, you know, there's endless pictures online of the crowd sizes going down. And again, when I go back and I look at
it, gets so annoying to see these pictures. Like, yeah, I know AEW is not filling up arenas. Every single time you go to an AEW show, you don't have to take a picture of that side and post it on Twitter. I know. We know.
AEW.
You're not telling us anything we don't know.
Dynamite first episode and first year, the arenas are full, crowds are hot, big names, a lot of fun happening. The crowd is energized. And as I watch Dynamite now, crowds are small, not a lot of enthusiasm, returning to the same markets all the time. Viewership is down overall. You're going from 1 million views to 800, 900,000, sitting comfortably at north of 800,000, which is incredible. Going down and down and down. And when I look at ratings, and it doesn't totally matter, I understand that, but it's an indicator. And it's an indicator of people's interest, I think, in the product, whatever the product is. And so I see that and I'm like, yeah, it's getting into like 600,000. And when they launched Collision, I was like, okay, cool, they're gonna do another show. And I thought, we got so much AEW product. And I think that is partially my problem with it, and why I almost kind of left it, is it started to get too thin. And I'll go back a little bit here.
Yeah, there is an overabundance of content they're producing when they don't actually have the stories to warrant all the shows and all the content they're producing. I can see that.
For a second. So we have Dynamite. We had the YouTube shows at the time, Dark and Elevation. And I couldn't keep up with that because they're on YouTube and it's just too much. There's a cap for me of how much I can consume. But you had Dynamite, AEW, Dark and Elevation, Rampage, then you had Collision. And when Rampage numbers started to really go in the tank, it really did feel like WWE's version of Velocity. Like, it really started to feel like a third...
Nah, it ain't start to feel. It still feels that way.
Like, the stories didn't really happen on Rampage. There wasn't anything of consequence there. You weren't really going to see any of the large names.
Does anybody in the chat... Does anyone here actually watch... Does anybody here actually watch Rampage? Out of curiosity.
From Dynamite showing up on Rampage.
And I'm not talking about like you watch Rampage because Will Ospreay's wrestling Kenny Omega. I'm talking about like weekly watch Rampage.
They got rid of Dark and Elevation, started reducing the time. Rampage became that extra show. So then they launched Collision. And I was not really a fan of them launching Collision. Now, and it was really, really a mess if you remember the launch of Collision because the marketing was all over the place. We didn't know if CM Punk was going to come back. It was a big headlining name that they wanted to kind of anchor with the show, as we know.
And even now, I don't even watch Collision. I think the first few weeks Collision was on, I watched it, and then I fell off pretty fast. Because Collision, for the most part, I feel like Collision is just a wrestling. Like, it's just a show where they have great matches. And yeah, I love to watch a Katsuri Shibata versus Will Ospreay match. But I don't feel like they advance a lot of stories on Collision. They advance a lot of their stories on Dynamite. Collision has kind of become what SmackDown was for the 2010s. And I'm not talking about SmackDown in 2016. I'm talking about like SmackDown from like 2010 to 2015. That's what Collision is. It's the pre-taped show that WWE has that you can watch after Raw is over if you're there in the audience. Or you could choose to watch it on TV the next week. But just understand the spoilers are probably already out. So the show's not really worth watching. That was SmackDown for 5 years. That's what Collision is. Collision isn't taped. But it just feels like, it's not worth watching. There's no major storyline that happens on Collision. There's some major storylines that might eke from Dynamite into Collision, but there is no major storyline that primarily happens on Collision. There is none. It doesn't exist. And the only time they had that feeling is when CM Punk was there. And CM Punk is gone now, so that doesn't happen anymore.
And so I'm like, well, I'm going to give it a chance. Maybe this is going to be their shot to be able to take 2 hours of Dynamite, and you got 2 hours of Collision happening, and you also got Rampage in there too, and Ring of Honor as well. So when Collision launched, I was giving it a shot. Once again, excitement level is up for me. Felt intrigued, like the roster. Kind of felt like they were doing a brand split. Wasn't really clear, but now I had 2 pretty good shows, and very quickly, Collision just kind of fell off. And it's also time of the shows. They're on really late, and I say really late, but I'm an old man, but they're on late. And it started to very quickly show that not a ton of intriguing stuff was happening on Collision. It was still happening on Dynamite as the primary show.
Yep, as I just said, Dynamite is the primary show, which is fine. But when you have another show that's your primary show and you don't treat it like the primary show, then people aren't going to watch it. Some people watch Collision. I don't watch Collision because I don't feel like anything important happens on that show. That's a lot of the reason why I don't watch Rampage. Nothing important happens, so why am I watching it? I'll watch Collision if there's a match that I want to see, but largely there is no reason to watch Collision.
So
if I want to get caught up on major AEW storylines, I'll watch Dynamite on Wednesday. There's no reason to spend my Saturdays watching it when I could be out having fun with friends.
The issues I've had with AEW.
If you're going to have me watching a Saturday wrestling show, you better give me a good damn reason to spend my Saturday night watching your show. If you don't, I'm not watching your show on Saturday. I'll be doing something else because it's the weekend.
As a product is...
Cheers to the freaking weekend.
Tony Khan splintering off the product into so many directions. Over bloating the roster too, as I look at it.
Yeah, Ring of Honor being a thing, honestly, they should just shut down Ring of Honor. I'm being so serious. First of all, I don't know anybody who actually watches Ring of Honor on a weekly basis. And secondly, because you have to pay to watch Ring of Honor, that really is a big bridge for people not to watch Ring of Honor. You have to pay to watch a show where a lot of your big stars aren't even on. The biggest AEW stars you can think of have likely never even appeared on Ring of Honor television. So why would I watch Ring of Honor? It's a pay to watch service where none of my big stars are. Why would I watch Ring of Honor? If anything, just close Ring of Honor. That way you can actually stop putting your money into something that's not working. Unless it's a tax write-off, then keep it by all means. But, which probably is the case. It probably is a tax write-off. But anyways, shut the Ring of Honor, take all that talent, and exclusively have them wrestle on Rampage. That way, all the people like Athena and all the people who I actually like that wrestle on Ring of Honor get TV time, and I can watch them on free television. And we can see people like Athena, who, by the way, only wrestled 2 times on AEW Dynamite last year. Athena can actually wrestle on AEW television because she's not shackled. Yes, I'm going to say shackled because a lot of people who wrestle for Ring of Honor, you don't see on Dynamite. They're shackled to Ring of Honor. So by letting go of the Ring of Honor promotion, which is really just Tony Khan's pet project, it's something that he likes to have. It's sentimental to him, and I get it, but there's no reason to have it. Drop Ring of Honor, have all those people on Collision and Rampage. That way, you maximize all the people that you have, and you have a new pool of people to expose other wrestling fans to. Other than having these people employed, and I guess it's good for them that they're employed and they get paid, but as a fan, there's a lot of wrestlers on the Ring of Honor brand that I never see. Because I'm not paying $9.99 to watch a show that I'm probably not going to watch.
At all.
How do you guys feel about that take?
Feeling like they signed anybody and everybody they could, especially in the early days, making that roster huge. Only recently have we seen or heard of a couple of talents leaving AEW. Some, their contracts are just up, they don't renew. Some are just let go. But in large part, Tony Khan keeping everybody. And great, keep people employed. I'm all for it. People get TV time, people get to wrestle and do their jobs. Amazing. But the roster is so big. And the additional shows they put on.
It's so big, yet they don't do a brand split. I'll never get it.
Didn't feel like they were doing more other than...
They tried to do a loose brand split with Collision, but it was not a loose brand split. It was, let's put everybody who was beefing with each other on different shows. That's not a brand split.
Just offering more wrestling. But seeing the ratings and seeing my own personal interest in it, it starts to go down. And I wonder if other wrestling fans feel the same way. Because I started to notice that I was skipping Dynamite like 1 week, the next week, the next week. And then certain things bring me back in. Like watching Swerve and the rise of Swerve Strickland and becoming world champion is incredible. And I love Swerve. But I see like the...
I like Swerve too, but I don't think his reign's doing enough for me to watch every week.
Women's division. And they brought in Mercedes. And I'm like, okay, cool.
Okay, well, I could think I could end his video right here. He's closing out. But, and I agree with a lot of what he said. We share the same sentiment. I said it before and I'll say it again. When AEW starts doing things that are exciting and can't miss television, I'll be there. But until then, there's no reason for me to watch AEW week to week. I'll catch up with it on Twitter, on YouTube clips, because I don't dislike the promotion. But for those of you who ask, why don't you watch AEW? Why don't you watch AEW? Why aren't you streaming pay-per-views? There's your answer. That being said, guys, that was the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. I want to do more videos like this, so comment down below if you want to see more content like this. And if you do see long-form wrestling content, talk pieces, hot takes that you want me to react to and cover, make sure you comment them down below. Or better yet, fucking DM it to me on Twitter. And then if I like it, I'll look into it. All right. It's been easy. It's been real. I will be live streaming AEW Double or Nothing 2024 this weekend. I'll see you all there. Peace.